This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, August 1st, 2025. Unusual weather. My wife thinks it might rain. That's extraordinary, but I don't know. Let's look. No, they're showing sunny. Um, High of 90, it's at 81 now. 90's not that bad for us. And then we're going to be in the low 90s in the coming days, and it looks like it'll stay there for some time. August is the worst month for the heat in Israel. That's when a lot of the people take vacations, if they can get away to beat the heat. A lot of the more secular Jews take vacation over the holidays, like unleavened bread and stuff like that too, so they don't have to be inconvenienced as they see it by the holidays. So they want to go to another country where they can eat, regular food without any inconvenience, Restaurants do stay open on on the unleavened bread, Passover, they call it. But like the Chinese places stay open because they don't really have bread in their food. I never got a roll or a loaf of bread from a Chinese restaurant. Did you? Where they give you bread and butter? I never saw it. The falafel guys have a version of non-leavened flatbread. They give you falafel and shawarma in, but it doesn't taste so good. It's better to just take your, shawarma and put the eggplant and the salad and the French fries or whatever, pickles into a plate and just eat it that way. Anyway. So we're going to cover a bunch of news stuff today. It's getting interesting. And we'll do some binding and loosing and see how the Lord takes us with prophecy and stuff like that. So pray we have a good time and learn stuff. And let me go into the live stream and see what we can get going there. Make sure we're cooking with gas. My subscriber list keeps going down. The more and more binding and loosing we do, the more and more people leave. See, they're maybe aware that what we're doing is in the scripture, but they aren't going to sit there and say, wow, these people really aren't afraid of Satan and they're really moving forward. No, they won't say that. What they'll say is, oh, these people are wacko, they're out there, what are they doing? They're crazy, they shouldn't do this. Can they come up with an alternative explanation for what we're supposed to do with binding and loosing? No. Would they try? No, they wouldn't even know where to start. It's just, it makes them uncomfortable. Why? 2 Corinthians 11:4, they have another Jesus who is most likely, Satan clause, Satan, and they have another gospel. They use the written Bible, but they don't follow it. And they receive another spirit, so the other spirit keeps them away from the truth. Now, if the binding and loosing was so bogus, why do we read that the people were afraid of the Messianic believers in the Acts 2 days? They were afraid of them. They feared them. Why? Why? Because they understood the binding and loosing. Why don't we read about it in the scriptures there? I don't know. Maybe it was never written, or maybe it was taken out. Remember this, depending who you want to talk to, 20, 30, 40 or so books of the Bible that aren't there anymore. So you got to leave room for satanic editing out. I mean, there are a lot of books in the Bible that the Bible mentions that we don't have in the Bible. Okay, that's one of the most used names for male children being born in the UK is Sinwar's name, which is Yeye or Reye. Both of those are demonic names. Okay. They're names for the devil or high-ranking unclean spirit. And that's what he named himself after them, like they named themselves after Muhammad. And people don't know that. And the Muslims that name their kids that don't know that, you know, Yeye or Ray Ray, they're both the same thing, are demonic names. They don't get it. They don't get it. It's like, who would want to go to Columbia University once you realize who Columbia is? But, you know, when I was in my college days, back before they had electricity invented, no, I'm kidding, Columbia was considered a good university, but it was an urban campus in Upper Manhattan, and people went there, had a good reputation. A lot of people from around the United States would go there, get a place to live live in their dorms, whatever they had, or rent apartments and go to school there. I'm talking the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe in the 70s even. There were nice colleges back then. NYU, New York University, was a great school. My father went there. They had a downtown campus in Greenwich Village, which was just a bunch of buildings near each other, an urban setup. And then they had a campus up in the Bronx that was quite a few acres, quite large. And it had buildings, and the next building near it would be like, 60, 100 yards away or more. And it had a lot of grass and trees and stuff. It was a real campus, It wasn't as big as, like, going to a state university, in Missouri or Arkansas, where, I went to a state university and it would take almost a half hour to walk from one end of the campus to the other. NYU would have been at most an 8 or 10 minute walk, something like that. Wouldn't have been that long, but it's nice. Okay, let me put a post up and we'll get going. Trump's been real busy. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. And he's badmouthed Netanyahu really, really in a big way, as if he wants to get rid of Netanyahu. And we'll go through it. And the president of sanctions, old hammer of the earth Trump, is at it with those sanctions. I'll read you the latest list. It's probably about 15 countries he put sanctions on. I'll read it off to you and how much the sanctions are. And he's punishing Canada for the Palestinian state thing, and we'll go through that. Okay. Thank you to the moderators who are helping out a lot. And I'm going to do some praise, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament. If any of you see, and I don't pick it up, that the notice for me to update my operating system pops up and blocks out the broadcast, if you have my WhatsApp, call me on WhatsApp because I'll hear it and then I'll know. Because sometimes I get lost in thought and I don't look at the screen. But I'll have to make a concerted effort to look at the screen more. Okay, there is no God like Jehovah. 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 Jehovah. There is no God like Jehovah. There is no God like Jehovah. There is no God like Jehovah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. Okay, it did it, and I nipped it in the bud, and it probably won't do that again. Okay, so let's start over with Messiah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, we could start with what the Donald is doing, because he's a handful. So we'll do his tariffs. Let me read you the list of tariffs. This is not the whole list. This is his latest update, I guess, from yesterday. Today's Friday, and Israel will be Thursday. Laos, 40% tariff. That means goods coming into America from Laos, if something costs $1, it becomes $1.40. $10, it becomes $14. Okay? And you're going to pay for it if you buy these goods. Now, as I read you this, I want you to use your thinking cap, and I'll help you. The tariffs should make the manufacturers inside the United States more competitive. But if they're selling men's shirt or women's blouses or socks or something from Laos, how the heck is a United States company going to compete with them? I don't see how. Even with the 40% uptick on the cost of the goods sold, with the 40% tariff, they're still going to be competitive. Now, if you have a company that actually, if this 40% bump up gives the company an edge, you know what the company is going to do? They're going to raise their prices and keep them just under the prices of the goods from Laos or any other country. That's right. They're going to increase their prices. They're going to use this as an opportunity from Trump to increase the prices. So everybody in America is going to suffer. Everything is going to suffer from inflation bad. It's a stupid idea. Let me keep going. Myanmar, 40% tariff. Switzerland, 39%. What do you get from Switzerland? Well, see, this is funny. Now, this is when I get to make you laugh. You got to listen to this because it's hilarious. The Swiss, and we call them in Israel Schweiz, which is the same in Yiddish, I think. It's Switzerland, the Swiss. Schweiz is Swiss, not Switzerland. Schweizland. All right, well, anyway, that would be Yiddish, not Hebrew. Okay, moving along. What have the Swiss been accused of making in China, but yet they continue to lie and say that it's made in Switzerland? Now, I don't think Trump did this intentionally. Well, let me tell you, let me push this forward. Chocolate? No. The chocolate's made in Switzerland. Is it good chocolate? Yes. Is it similar to Belgian chocolate? I would say so. Is it better than Israeli chocolate? Okay, this is where I'm at with that. I would, and I've really dealt with this, I would say that on a 10 scale, a Swiss chocolate is probably a 9, and Israeli chocolate is probably an 8. It's slightly behind. Israeli chocolate is exceptionally good, shockingly good. Can I explain why it's good? I can't. It's so crazy that this would ever happen, but it does. Now, some people would say, no, you're overrating it. It's a 7, a 7.5, or something, but it's almost as good as the Swiss chocolate. But the price is way the heck lower. No shipping from overseas, no import tariff. It's really way cheaper. It's not expensive at all. And I like their white chocolate. But anyway, let's talk about Rolex, Patek Philippe. What are the other big? Audemars Piguet. There's some Swiss watches that really aren't made in Switzerland. They're made over the line in Germany, and they're as good. Now, do they make those watches in China too? I guess so. I haven't looked into it. The big Breitling is another one. So the lion's share of the Swiss watches that sell a lot are Patek Philippe, Rolex, Breitling, Audemars Piguet, Breguet, IWC. Oh, what are the others? I'm not sure about Cartier, probably, although it could be from France, but it's supposed to be a Swiss watch, I think. And there's about 3 or 4 other brands, but they're not, the ones that I named are really getting the lion's share of the business. So they could beat the 39% by just going out there and saying, no, these are Chinese watches. Okay. Now, you're talking about massive billions and billions of dollars of these watches that get sold in America. There's a huge amount, okay? Huge, and it's not unusual for people to drop $1, $2, $3, $400,000 on a Swiss watch, a watch. Oh, what's the other one? Richard Mille, RM, they call it by abbreviation RM, Richard Mille. His watches go in the millions, not all of them, but he sells watches for $1, $2, $3, $4 million. So why do people buy a Swiss watch for the price of a really, really nice house? One, stupid. 2, they already have several houses and cars and boats, and the money still keeps coming in. They don't have anything else to do with it, so they buy Swiss watches. That's what a lot of them are. And another large amount of them are those that want to portray an image of how rich they are when they're not. Those people are generally millionaires, but just being a run-of-the-mill millionaire isn't going to get you to the point where you could drop $250,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 on a watch, and you don't just buy one watch. You buy a watch for the office, which is going to be rather plain, maybe on a leather strap. It'll probably have the regular watch hands, and maybe it'll have the date. May or may not have the day of the week. And then you're going to want to have a watch for sport or for the weekend, swimming, taking the yacht out, horseback riding. So we'll get a more durable watch on a metal strap that you can put in water and go swimming and water skiing or diving off the board or whatever, right? Okay. And then they'll have another watch for parties and celebrations and events, which will probably be a Rolex or a Patek Philippe that has a lot of jewels, rubies, emeralds, diamonds all over the thing, especially with the women. And then they'll have another one or two in there for variety. So, these people that do this are not, some kid trying to emulate being a rapper and buying an iced out watch. These people got to buy the real thing, lest somebody at a party or event says, "Oh, let me see you. Could I try it on? Could I see?" And they know what they're looking for, and you can usually spot a fake if you know what you're looking for. Not easily, but you can. Look, let's put it this way. They're giving you a Patek Philippe for, let's say the low end on those things is $40,000-$50,000, right? Without getting into gold or in stainless steel, or at least 30 or 40 or something, right? In stainless steel. And that means they got enough time to do the little finishing details and touches, where the knockoff is probably going to cost $500 to $1,000. So it's not going to be that good, So the Swiss watch sales inside the United States just crashed and burned. The Swiss watches have been dropping their prices by maybe as much as 20 to 40%, which is nowhere near what they need to do. They need to drop them by 75 to 90%. Okay. I'm serious, 80-90% price drops would get their watches moving again. But now with this, the Swiss watch industry's lost a major market. Now, where else do they sell a lot of watches to? Asia. There's a lot of wealthy people in Asia that love buying these watches. The Middle East, they're all over the Middle East. These rich people in the Middle East have 10, 20, 30 of these things. They sell them to the cartels and the wealthy people in South America, Central America, Mexico, and Europe. They got a lot of markets. So is America a substantial market for them? Yes. Is it going to hurt them? It is. What can they do about it? I don't know. Any price drop? Now, I don't think Trump did this to them over the watches, the scandal with China. I think it had other things, but I could be wrong. But I don't think that was it. So the Swiss watch industry just took a nosedive. So even with their price drops, and mostly they were at like 20% price drops and stuff. Even with their price drops, Trump reversed it. Can they drop their prices? Can they take let's take a $40,000 or let's say a $20,000 stainless steel watch, and to get it to sell again, they're probably going to have it in the stores at about $5,000. Yeah, they could. I figure it costs them maybe $1,500, maybe $1,000. I don't know. They could do it, but they're not going to have the kind of profits they're used to. because the price of gold is so high, these Swiss watchmakers have made most of their more complicated models in stainless steel, which they never used to do going back 20 years, 25 years ago. Rolex only offered their most basic watches in stainless steel. Their more sophisticated ones, like the Rolex President, was you could get it in white gold, rose gold, yellow gold, or platinum. That was it. Maybe they sell it in stainless steel now. They got a lot of watches in stainless steel. You didn't see much of them. Patek Philippe too. So they're not going to be happy. And let me tell you, their Swiss chocolate, it's tanking. They're going to lose the American market on that. Nobody's going to give them, 40% or 39%, for their chocolate. It ain't that good. Now, people in America buy a lot of junk chocolate like Nestle's and Hershey's, and that's not good chocolate. That's kids like it. It's not very good. Compare Swiss chocolate to that, and the Swiss chocolate is super fragilistic, Canada, 35%. Canada was at 25%. He bumped them 10% over the Palestinian state. Canada's not going to like it. South Africa, 30%. I'm not sure what gets imported into America from South Africa. You got me on that. I don't know. Taiwan, 20%. Plenty of stuff comes from Taiwan. Tons. 20% is not fatal. Taiwan can keep they can handle it. They can still be competitive with a 20% tariff. Sri Lanka, 20%, same thing. They could still be competitive. Cambodia, 19%, same thing. I don't know what we get from Cambodia. Indonesia, we get garments, I think, from there and stuff, 19%. They could still be competitive because they're paying nothing for labor, nothing for real estate to put their factories. It's all cheap. Malaysia, 19%. New Zealand, 15%. They gonna have trouble with that, but they can handle it. Turkey, 15%. Turkey can handle it easily. South Korea, 15%. They're gonna probably handle it. They're just gonna have to get less greedy. They sell the Kia, the Hyundai, to America. That's a problem. And they sell a lot of like Samsung and electronic stuff, they're going to have to shave their prices. They're not going to be happy, but they'll survive. Venezuela, 15%. And Israel, 15%. Now, he cut Israel a little bit of a deal. Israel has an 18% tariff on anything coming in from anywhere. As far as I know, unless it's a country that Israel has an axe to grind with, it's an 18% tax when you bring it in. So Netanyahu wanted to do a tax-free deal with Trump, where American goods in Israel don't get the 18% tax. And Israel could sell stuff in America with no tax also. Trump said no. But he gave him 3% edge, so. Trump is just continually getting countries more and more mad at him, and they're just sitting there thinking what? We got to unify and stick together and stop Trump. Is it true that these countries took advantage of America for many years with very high taxes on American imported goods to their countries? Yes. Does that mean they want to pay the piper and make up for it because Trump is president? No. Trump is forcing the hand, but the idiot is doing it too much to too many countries all at the same time. It doesn't work. Watch what they do. Watch. They're going to get rid of America. Part of the snare. Okay, this has been in the media big time. U.S. President and his aides believe Netanyahu is prolonging the war in Gaza to maintain his political power. That means stay in office. Despite Israel having already achieved its military objective, the report claims. This is like an official report from America. Do I think it's true? Absolutely true. I don't have any doubt in my mind. What they left out is Netanyahu's afraid to get thrown out of office because then his criminal cases will come up on him and he ain't going to get out from under them and he's going to get convicted of something. I would say 2, 3, 4 years in jail maximum, not 16, and fines, and he'll never be able to go into politics. He'll lose a lot of money in Israel, but he'll probably be allowed to sell his rights to a movie and a book and pick up a few million to live on. That's probably what will happen. Would he be safe in prison? Yeah. They'd isolate him. He has no interest in going to jail. He'd sooner see Israel be destroyed than go sit in jail and die in jail. He could get 16 years in jail if they gave him the max. And I think he's over 70, so, you know. The soldiers are weary, and they were telling news reporters that they want them to carry the story that they're weary. It's too much. Now Netanyahu and his administration are saying they're going to persecute the war in a different way. Oh, really? Nah, I don't think so. He's saying that they will only take a deal with Hamas where all the hostages come up first. Everything, the dead bodies, the living hostages, and Hamas surrenders, gives up all their weapons, and goes out of Gaza forever and ever. And the people in Gaza that want to leave are allowed to leave. That's about it. Nothing short of that is going to work, the Israelis said. What do I say? So what? Yawn. Hamas isn't going to listen to him. If they want to be nice, they'll say, well, that's unacceptable to us. There's nobody for them to negotiate with because Qatar and Egypt had it with them. And America had it with them, and Israel had it with them, so they burned it out. What are they going to do? You got to remember the leaders are Satan bots impersonating being Muslims, okay? In America, they do the same thing, impersonating being Christians, okay? In India, they do the same thing, impersonating being Hindus. In Iran, same thing, Satan bots impersonating being Muslims. In Buddhist countries, the same thing. They impersonate being Buddhist. That's the way it works, okay? So the Israeli government knows this, although they'll never talk about it. They know it. And they know the leaders don't want to get killed. That's why they do the targeted assassination. Because the leaders don't buy into, I'm going to instantly be whisked up to paradise and get 70 virgins. What the leaders do believe, I don't know. Probably that Satan's a god and they're okay, they're going to have a wonderful life when they get killed. So, this is where they're at. What's Netanyahu going to do that's different? Or, gosh, I have no idea. What's he going to do? Bomb more buildings, move people out from one part of Gaza to another? What do you think he's going to? He'll annex Gaza. He'll start annexation. As soon as he starts annexation, the nations are going to start recognizing the Palestinian state. Canada, UK, France, Malta. There's a bunch that already have recognized this thing. There'll be other states too. And they'll recognize the Palestinian state. And Netanyahu doesn't care. Any day he stays in office is a good day because he can stay out of jail. So that's what Trump is growing weary of. because he can't get anything good and decisive going with Gaza. And every time he turns around, Israel's bombing in Lebanon, Hezbollah. We're bombing in Syria to stop the Gilani government. And every now and then we'll do something to the Houthis, but that's pretty rare. Trump knows nothing about the Middle East, apparently by his actions. I think the last time they had anybody in the Middle East, in the Pentagon and the White House and stuff that knew anything, it was Stormin' Norman, the general against Iraq, Saddam Hussein, with old man Bush, former CIA guy, in the White House as the president. And they persecuted that war pretty adeptly and mightily against Saddam. They had, I believe, 6 aircraft carriers in the Middle East. They had battleships. We still had battleships then. The reason you don't have battleships anymore, the battleship is a cool and groovy weapon, but it's like a single action revolver is cool and, with the Wyatt Earp days and all that, right? But it doesn't hold up against a semi-automatic pistol today, not in the least, with high magazine capacity, rapid fire, quick change, you drop the clip and you stick another one in, you release the slide, you start shooting again, versus shoving each shell out individually with a single action revolver and putting a new one in. It takes a long time. So accuracy, lethality of the rounds and all that. Yeah. So there's a real problem now with Trump and Netanyahu. Believe me, or Trump wouldn't have said that. Trump said it because there's a problem, and it was a warning shot across the bow for Netanyahu. Well, the battleships, back to that. The battleships had 9 guns on them. That was 16-inch guns that shot a 2,000-pound projectile, and they were able to push it out as far as 25 miles. And they were using radar with pretty high accuracy and stuff like that. But guys, it's nothing like, anti-ship missiles or Tomahawk missiles or cruise missiles that launch off destroyers that have a much greater range, and they're much more lethal and very, very accurate. So if your maximum range is 25 miles with a destroyer, and somebody has anti-ship missiles that go 35 miles, they stay a few miles out of range of your guns where you can't do anything to them, and they just shoot anti-ship missiles at you till they sink your boat. So it's basically worthless in this environment. They're going, if they can, the end times isn't going to allow for this time-wise, but they're going for robotic soldiers. I put a video up on my Telegram yesterday of a robotic soldier that looked like the shiny robot from Star Wars, not the little R2-D2, the big guy, I don't remember what his name is. It was shiny, yellow, gold colored looking thing. So they put this robot in directing traffic. Now, I doubt he was the only robot directing traffic anywhere in China. It could have been, but he was directing traffic like a traffic policeman. Which most cities you don't see much of that anymore. You know, with a cop standing there with a whistle in his mouth, going like this with hand signals and, telling people, come on, come on. And, you don't see that much anymore. You saw it even in the 60s and 50s in America, but it was really something more for the 20s, 30s, 40s, Now, some parts of other countries, they use traffic police a lot. So I don't, that just was interesting because first thing is if you hack the traffic robot, you're going to have a lot of crashes, right? That's a risk. So it shows you that artificial intelligence has gotten to a pretty weird level. Now, if they can have a robot direct traffic, they can likely have a robot can take the place of an infantryman or a suicide drone. In other words, he's a suicide soldier. They could be hard to kill because they could, if they armor the robot, they're going to weigh him down, and then it's going to require far more energy to use the robot. Then that means the battery life is going to be remarkably shortened. So I don't think they're going to weigh the robot down with 1,100 pounds of armor or 400 pounds because the battery life will be nothing, and they probably have to have a battery life of 8 or 10 hours or something. The robot would be able to function, I guess, in rain and snow and sleet and moderate hail at night or in day or in, 120-degree heat. But I mean, can the robot function at 0 degrees Fahrenheit? I don't know. It might lock up. Can the robot function at 120 degrees heat? It might shut down. I don't know. There's electronic circuitry inside the robot, so the heat's going to build up. So if the temperature's too hot, the heat buildup will cause a shutdown. So I don't know how they're doing it. Rest assured, you got limits, which are going to be temperature and battery life, serious limits. If the thing runs out of battery and just stops, the enemy can destroy it or take it and study it or reprogram it or whatever. But that would give them the perfect soldier that does anything. Kills men, women, children. You don't have to give it medals. You don't have to pay it. It doesn't eat. It's very accurate when it fights. But I don't think they're there. It's got to be cost effective. If it costs them $4 or $5 million for one robot, it's a joke. If they can make a robot for $30,000 or $50,000 or something, yeah, it works. Then they would have robot police, robot soldiers, robot building inspectors, robot sanitation inspectors, food inspectors, you know. Would they want people to buy robots for their houses? Yep. Why? Then they know everything about you. And it's Satan that wants to know everything about everybody. He's so paranoid. Yeah. So they'd use them like they did TV sets. You know, TV sets started out extremely expensive. But they started realizing that people were addicted to them. And they got control over the networks. So the brainwashing potential was massive. I remember buying, I think it was a 27-inch color TV in the late 1990s at Walmart for about $200. It was on sale. I ran over there to buy it. As soon as I heard about the sale, it had the curved screen, you know. But I thought it was a nice TV. And that's when I realized how cheap these things could be made. Again, remember, just like the Birkin purses and the Chanel and the Louis Vuitton and the Rolex being made in China, and their profit margins are sick. They're so huge that that's probably the case with flat screen TVs, cell phones, tablets, computers, and all that. You know? And Elon Musk is threatening to come out with phones and tablets at a very low price that are going to put the existing products to shame. But nothing's on the market that does that. You just keep seeing YouTube videos that it's coming and it never comes. So I don't know why. Okay. So what Netanyahu could not do, he cannot end the war in Gaza unless he gets us into another war. As soon as there's no war, the court's going to insist Netanyahu show up in court every day. His trial will be over in a matter of a few weeks. And he'll go to jail, most likely, in my opinion. So that could mean he's having a falling out with Trump. Because Trump's position is because that schmuck has a few corruption cases and he's not good enough to handle it internally. He throws his country into war to stay out of jail, and he's screwing up all my plans. I want to end this war, and he doesn't want to end it. In other words, he's not persecuting the war against Hamas as hard as he should. Okay? You take a section of Gaza, you tell them they got 24 hours to leave, you get them in a safe area, okay? And then you send 60 bombs in there, okay? Then you drop leaflets and you ask the Hamas if they want to surrender yet. Use the word yet. No. Move people out of another area of Gaza and drop 60 bombs. Now, what about the tunnels? Well, you got to use bunker buster bombs on the tunnels, and Israel has them. Then blow up the tunnels. Just keep bombing them every day. Eventually, there's no place to live above ground. What are they going to do then? But he's not doing it. He doesn't want to bring it to an end. That's, guys, a curse on Israel. And I'm not the only Israeli that knows this. There's a ton of people in Israel that are aware of this. It's in the newspapers, as a matter of fact. Now, this is very interesting about Iran. And this makes me think about Elam being destroyed by her enemies in Jeremiah 49. Elam being Iran, and possibly Iraq and parts of Syria. We did a big bombing run in Syria yesterday, hitting some weapons depots again. I'll read you this. In a joint statement, the United States, the United Kingdom, the UK, Albania, not that big a deal, Austria, not so big, Belgium, bigger, Canada, bigger, Czechia or Chechnya, Denmark, Finland, Germany, big, France, big, Netherlands, not so big, Sweden, not so big, and Spain, good size, condemned the threat posed by Iranian intelligence operations. So that's like the Iranian CIA or something, Iranian Mossad equivalent, something like that. Operations to their respective nations. The communique declared that Iran's attempts to kill, kidnap, and harass individuals in Europe and North America represents a blatant violation of their sovereignty. So what these 11 countries are saying is that Iran is attempting to kill the diplomats and political people, and maybe the captains of industry, kill them, bother them, and kidnap them. Now, kidnapping them is sort of halfway there. What it really means is take them hostage. Iran saw the extraordinary amount of mileage that Hamas in Gaza got from those hostages, and they want to do the same thing to stop themselves from being bombed when they behave belligerently towards other nations. So the intel services of these countries picked this up and went to their bosses and that's it. And then it got press released. So This is scary stuff, and this is going to turn them against Iran. Well, they already are turned against Iran. This is not, making nuclear material. This is, really getting them upset. Now, who in this has got any teeth? The United States. The UK has plenty of teeth. Okay. Belgium a little bit, Canada a little bit, Denmark, Finland, slight. Germany got a big bite. France a big bite. Netherlands a little bit. Sweden a little bit. Spain, a little more than a little bit. You put them all together and you got a big bite going on against Iran. Do I think Iran was doing this? Oh, yeah. Iran wants to do this so they could stop any future attacks on Iran. Now, killing foreign diplomats doesn't do much, but taking them hostage does. They're scared. So there's a lot of stuff rumbling around out here. Now, more trouble in Iran, and this is really serious. The water tanks serving Tehran, which is the capital of Iran, Tehran, currently contain only 20% of their capacity. So their water is down to 1/5 or 20% of capacity and sinking readily. This is serious. Now, speaking about negotiations with Iran, let's go into the theater of the absurd. You ready for this? This really happened. Iran demands compensation before any opening of nuclear negotiations. What do they want compensation for? And they pointed it specifically at the United States. The United States has to pay compensation before the start of nuclear talks. The condition was set by Tehran, I guess. Let's do some prayer requests. We've got a few. We got a prayer request for CM, Charlie Mike. CM, Charlie Mike, CM. Prayer request is that churchianity people leave CM alone and stop trying to snare CM. So this is for CM, Charlie Mike. The prayer request is churchianity people leave CM alone and stop trying to snare CM. Okay, next is ES, Echo Sierra. ES, Echo. Oh, let's do it as an agreeing prayer. My Heavenly Father Jehovah, I come to you for CM, and I pray. My prayer request is that the churchianity people leave CM alone and stop trying to ensnare CM. And I pray this B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can join in and agree in the name of Yeshua the Messiah. Agree to this, even if it's a video, not a live stream. Okay? Now I have another prayer request. I think it's more powerful to do it this way. Two or more agree, you know. ES Echo Sierra, ES Echo Sierra, ES. Okay, so I pray my Heavenly Father for ES. He has some internal problems health-wise. You know what they are. And I ask you to give ES healing for his medical internal problems now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can join in and agree with that prayer also. Next one is for AV, Alpha Victor, AV, Alpha Victor, AV. My Heavenly Father, I pray for AV that the person doing accounting work for AV is able to finish the job. So the prayer request for AV is that the accountant that started the job gets to finish the job. Thank you. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree. Now let me remove these so I don't do them again. Okay. The chances of Donald Trump giving Iran compensation, which is probably damage to their nuclear facilities, what else, right? The chances of that are absurdly low. Even Biden wouldn't do that. What Trump said definitely hurt Netanyahu at the polls and pushed a lot of people to bring it closer to a vote of no confidence. Now, Bezalel Smotrich, the ultra-right-wing guy, said the new deal with Gaza isn't going to be like the old deals. The new ceasefire, truce, whatever you want to call it, with Gaza would have to involve all of the following components. Here you go. All the hostages get returned up front at the beginning, including the dead bodies. Hamas demilitarizes and gets the heck out of Gaza for the rest of their lives. And the Palestinian people are free to leave to go to other countries. Those ingredients have to be in anything. And I think you could rest assured that Hamas isn't going to agree to this. I would say there's a 99% chance they would not agree to it. Why would they? I mean, okay. Get back in my notes and see what else I got here. So the Bezalel Smotrich is basically saying there's not going to be any further negotiations with Hamas in Gaza over a partial deal. What do I mean? Like a 60-day ceasefire if you do this and we do that. You know, none of that. It's the total end of it. But, they're going to have to, if they start killing them in mass, they're going to kill the hostages publicly on the internet. Talk is cheap. Let's see what they do. They're using the words unconditional return of the hostages. Disarming. Which is demilitarization. The exile of Hamas forever out of Gaza. This is coming from a guy named Haider al-Abadi, a former prime minister of Iran. So in other words, he's a well-placed idiot in Iran. He used to be a prime minister there. This is what he said, in short and sweet. The war between Iran and Israel is not over. Iran is organizing its proxy forces in Iran, Syria, and Lebanon. Well, it would also be the Houthis in Yemen. It would also, minimum. And plans to attack Israel with their help. Okay, now, they want to use their people in Syria and Lebanon and the Houthis and stuff like that. These people don't have an air force, and they're going to gather on the border of Israel. And that's Zechariah 12, the Abadabadu. What else? That's what this is saying when you read into it. That's the only way they can really do it. And it's all the roads are pointing there. Now, the fires are continuing in America. Evacuations are continuing. Property damage is continuing. It's like crazy. Heat waves are coming. I mean, which is a plague or a hit, scorching heat. Now, scorching heat's going to vary. Israel's scorching heat starts at about 103, 105 degrees. Okay? Canada's scorching heat probably starts at 91, 92, 93. If London had 102 degrees, I don't know what they would do. I think they would go nuts over there. Unless I'm wrong about that, I think that would be heavy duty for them. If you go to Saudi Arabia and they get 103 degrees, life goes on. They get 108, well, it gets a little ugly, and more than that, it gets ugly, but they're used to it. Look, if you're living in an environment where the temperatures are going to get that extreme, let's say you lived in Georgia, and in the summer it stopped hitting 90, 92, it started hitting 111. What would you do? Well, you would go and have a second air conditioning unit for your central air put in. Okay? Would that work? Heck yeah. People that have large houses, like 3,500 square feet, will frequently put two, you have the outside air conditioning unit with the fan, and it sits 3-4 feet from the house, or 2 feet or something. Okay. They put two of those in. Okay? So they'll frequently have one for the upstairs and one for the downstairs, right? And the way they'll do it is during the daytime, they're not using the upstairs very much at all. If they need to go up there to take a nap or shower or something like that, they can just throw the air conditioning on for an hour and then shut it off. Um, and then when they go upstairs to go to sleep at night, they put the air conditioning on upstairs and shut it off downstairs if they need it, right? So what they would do is probably put a second air conditioning unit in downstairs because the heat is during the day. The upstairs with the one unit would probably work. Now, when you start getting into 5,000 and 7,000 square foot houses, people start having 3 and 4 of these air conditioning units, you know. And when you start looking at houses that are 15, 18,000 square feet, they'll have 5 of them maybe, you know, or 6, or, you know. Or they just get a much bigger unit, you know. What we do in Israel is we use what's called splits. They're small air conditioners, and you put them in each room, and you got remotes, and you turn them on. It's an inefficient way of doing it, but it's not that it's actually efficient because you don't have to cool rooms you're not using. When you have the central air, let's say you're living in a one-level house. Our house is one level. Let's say you've got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, a dining room, you know, a foyer, and, you know, an office. And you're not in all these rooms all the time, so you can close the doors to some of these rooms if it leads itself to that and just turn the splits on and cool as you need. So you're using far less power than you would if you were using central air. Far less. In addition, these new split air conditioners, the newer ones, are very ecological. They use very small amount of power compared to the ones you used to get in the old days. The other thing you can do is buy more powerful units. Now, in Israel, the small unit is usually a 1 horsepower to 1.25. Like this office is small, it's a 1 horsepower. And it'll make the office freezing. I mean, you could, you know, it'll drive you out of here. It's so cold. You have to put a sweater on. Okay. Now, if you have a large room, you want to go up to like a 1.5 horsepower. And that really could take care of a very large area, you know, like 25 by 15 feet or something like that. It would make that very, very cold. Then it goes up. It goes to 2 and even 2.5 horsepower. Now, I don't know what you'd want to do with 2 horsepower. You'd have to have a room that would be like, you know, 60 feet by 20 feet or 80 by, you know, you'd have to have like a ballroom or something like that. It doesn't lend itself. Now, with the central air units, they would get up to 3 and even 4 horsepower. See what I'm talking about? So when you turn it on, let's say you're by yourself during the day and you want to keep your house cool, you got to turn your central air on, and it's running 3 or 4 horsepower, you know. You know, so these are more efficient, but it just depends, you know. If you want to cool, see what they usually do is you put one in each bedroom, and you put one in a dining room, and you put one in a living room or a family room, right? So during the day, you're probably not using the living room, you're probably not using the dining room, and you're not using all the bedrooms. But you might want to put the air conditioning on in the dining room area, or what will affect your kitchen. and one bedroom or something like that. And, you just hang out where the air conditioning is, or put it on in the living room if you're going to stay there most of the time. That's it. So if the geniuses in Israel put insulation in their houses, which they don't, I have a friend that's a builder and he did it. And I'll tell you what happens. You want to cool your big family room off, you put your air conditioning on, 11 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, when it starts getting warm. You put it on for about 45 minutes and it cools the house off because you got the insulation. It keeps the cold in, right? Okay. And then you shut your air conditioner off, and then at the heat of the day, about 3 o'clock, you put it on for another half hour or 45 minutes, and that usually does it. That's it. Why these geniuses don't use insulation is I don't know. They operate like Arabs. I'm telling you, I don't understand. It's almost like, how could you be allowed to build a house without air conditioning? Yet at the same time, they put a solar heater up on the roof, which America should do. They're not expensive. You get a tank, you can get different size tanks, different size solar collectors, right? And if it's cloudy and cold and rainy outside, you have a switch you turn on and you electrically heat your hot water in the tank. But for about 7 months a year, you don't have to. And the water gets so hot, I'm not kidding, it's scalding. It gets scalding. Now, there's a control, I guess you can climb up on the roof and tone that down. But in the winter, you want that. Now, in the winter, what it does, if it's completely cloudy outside, right, and cold and damp and rainy, the solar does almost no good. Okay? If it's not rainy and it's not freezing cold outside and it's just cloudy, the solar is still there. It takes the chill out of your water. So if you're heating your water with electricity, you don't need that much time to heat it. You're not heating ice water, you're heating water that's almost room temperature or maybe room temperature. So I don't know why America doesn't use that. You'd save so much electricity, probably because when they put these things in, when they were building these houses, let's say back even in the 70s, people were getting electric bills for 1,800 square foot house of, $20 a month, $25 a month or less, So they didn't bother. They didn't have a problem they were worried about. Maybe even a bill would, if people watch their lights, it might only be $10, So today it's very expensive. So, it cuts both ways. So America's not that sharp either. Why didn't they do that thing with the solar heaters? It would save so much energy in America, And there are places in America where you would be able to use that solar probably, 10 to 12 months a year. Like, it's San Diego, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, places on the Gulf of Mexico, now the Gulf of America. And at the same time, there's other places where it probably wouldn't be that effective. Like the states up, like Wisconsin, the northern states near Canada. It, in probably the month of May, June, July, and August, it would be very effective. But let's say November, December, January, February, March, it would probably be very ineffective because the temperatures are so cold and it's not that nice out. Now, you take the New York City area in the winter, which I would say you're talking Thanksgiving to Easter, or thereabouts, somewhere in there. 80% of the days are cloudy. Yeah, it's depressing as all get up living in that place. 80% of the days are cloudy, so it makes the winter even more bitter. So your soul is not going to do you that much good. But I would say starting in April and running into sometime in early October, it would work with some, decent amount of success, maybe through October even. Because if the temperature is 45, 50 degrees and you're getting some sunlight, the solar is going to work pretty good. If your temperature is 22 degrees and there's no sunlight, the solar isn't going to do you any good. Now, the water tanks are outside the house, so I see a problem. We don't have freezing temperatures in Israel. If we did think it was going to freeze, I would put the electric heater on during the night when it's the coldest to make sure the water tank doesn't freeze and break or something like that. So that's another problem I didn't take into account, but you could rig a way to do that. Anyway, they use, what the people do in most of the houses in America is you have a tank in your garage, and you can get big tanks. You can get a 40-gallon and, all different size. Some people that have a big house with 4 or 5 bathrooms have 2 tanks or 3 tanks or whatever, and they heat it with liquid natural gas, the gas, which I think is pretty economical. So I believe it has a thermostat and it has a pilot light, and it goes on when the thermostat tells it it's too cold or something like that. So it keeps the water warm all the time. The solar does that for us, but the electric heater, no. You put the electric heater on if it's early spring or fall day, you need 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and your water will be hot for the day. Not during the night, but for the day. And that's nothing, And if it's really ugly outside, you got to put your electric heater on for 45 minutes to an hour, depending how ugly it is, and then you're okay for the day. In other words, you could turn it on at 11 in the morning or something, or 9 in the morning, and if you're going to take a shower at 8 o'clock at night, your shower's going to be cold. But if you take a shower like 2, 3 in the afternoon, you'll be fine. It'll keep your water hot for a long time. So anyway, I thought you might find that interesting, since it is Israel and I'll be here sometime soon. So the fire stuff in America, I put a lot of it up on Telegram. It's amazingly bad. Lightning starting fires, and we're seeing fires that flare up and they get 12, 20, 30 acres, and then they get them contained. You got to remember, not all the fires are going to be 10,000 acres. Okay? And you can't have the place all in flames right now, because the looters, the enemy that's going to kill the people and all that stuff and loot and plunder and pillage and spoil, has to be able to function, So like we did the other day, the idea is that the Lord's going to attack Washington, D.C., Washington District of Columbia, that idol, Statue of Liberty, the Columbia Pictures icon that's on the roof of the Capitol building. They're mad upon their idols. Going to get rid of that place. But then you're Putin and China and Iran and North Korea and other Muslim countries, and the terrorists like Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and all of these, crazies are all going to want to come get America and go after them, and they'll wipe the armies out, and that's where you're headed right now. And Trump's in a snare and doesn't know it, and he's putting all these tariffs on all the countries, so many countries at the same time. And you have to be stupid to think that they're not going to have conversations amongst each other. They're going to run along the lines of, what do we do to get rid of Trump? Look what he's doing to us. We got to stop this. Well, when they see Washington, D.C. get it, they're going to say, well, this is our opportunity. Let's go. And they'll go. Now, Poland is saying they're thinking about in September, which is next month, recognizing Palestine as a state. Now, Poland. And I imagine there's probably 5 or 6 more contemplating it. Okay? So, Poland is back to anti-Semitism. Polo had ghettos, concentration camps, fed the Jews to the Nazis. Terrible. And they're back right there. They're back at it again. If you're thinking that this is going to go on and, come Thanksgiving, it's going to be more of the same, except maybe a little worse here and there. More fires, more wars, more this, and then Christmas, more and more. And then, come the dead of winter in February, more and more. I'm rather certain this is going to be over well before the end of the summer in Israel. Okay. The summer doesn't really end in reality until sometime in November-ish. It cools in October, but you really wouldn't call it summer in October. But it's like the summer. In other words, you might have few days where it hits 92, 93, and you might have more days where the high is 82, 83, which is reasonably temperate. But when it's in the 80s, we're still going to use fans as the house collects too much heat. And might even bump the air conditioning on at, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon until the evening, because the house could heat up from the sun and everything. A lot of people in the U.S. will throw the air conditioner on when it hits 80. It's pretty common, When it's 78, most people won't put the air conditioning on. Some people will that can't take the heat for various reasons. It could be they don't like it. It could be they're very heavy. It could be their house builds up heat. Who the heck knows? I mean, they just don't like the heat, I know people like in San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco many years, and I got over the years very sick and tired of the weather. In the middle of, you get an Indian summer in San Francisco in October, which lasts maybe 2 to 4 or 5 days, where you might actually be able to go out without a jacket on. And you might find yourself another 2 or 3 days during the year, or 4 days or something, where you could go out without wearing a light jacket or a coat or a sweater or something like that. Okay, the rest of the time, you're wearing an outer garment. Okay? So it's pretty cold, like all the time. The houses don't have air conditioning. I remember buying cars when I bought a 911S Porsche in the late 70s, and I got it without air conditioning. I was living in San Francisco. What the heck do I need air conditioning for? It was silly. I didn't need it. I bought other cars without air. Now some of the cars had air conditioners, but you don't use it. But the houses don't. I mean, you look at an apartment building, a high-end building, and they got maybe 80 apartments or 100 apartments, and 3 or 4 will have an air conditioner somewhere. Why? People got money, and they put a little window air conditioner in their bedroom because there's those few days where it gets warm, and they don't want to suffer from any kind of heat, so they put that on. When I say warm, what am I talking about? Low to low to high 80s, not real warm, Um, you get up in the morning in San Francisco and it's cold. You put heat on, okay? It's cold. The house is cold. And then, you take a hot shower, you shave, you have coffee, whatever you're going to do, you get dressed. If you're working, you go out to work. And a lot of times I worked in the home because I was self-employed. But, around 9:30, the sun would start to break out pretty good, burn the fog away. And then it would begin to warm up very slowly. Okay, so a lot of times I used to buy like a Harris tweed sport jacket, which is a thick wool, heavy wool sport jacket. And I would buy that. I'd wear I didn't even buy short sleeve shirts when I lived in San Francisco. I didn't buy any. All I bought was long sleeve. So I'd put on a pair of pants, shoes, socks, a long sleeve shirt, and put my Harris tweed sport jacket on, and I was able to stay reasonably warm with it. Now, I used to buy these Harris tweed caps too that I put on my head, and especially if it was rainy or windy. So I would be able to run around in the afternoon, like if I was going to lunch or meeting someone for lunch, I would just put the sport jacket on and go out, and it would keep me warm enough. And about 11 o'clock, it started actually warming up most of the time in San Francisco. Many, many days would be like this. And the winds would stop, the fog would be gone, and the sun would be out for real. And it would stay like that anywhere till 2 to 4 p.m. If you were lucky, it would be like that till about 4, then the fog would roll in, and you'd see the clouds coming in. The clouds would be 60, 100, 200 feet in the air or something. You'd see them rolling in fast. And then the temperature starts dropping and it gets cold. So going out at night with just the sport jacket on, I used to do it, but it was, cold. I mean, sometimes I put the collar up and I closed it over, and I would, be getting in the car or walking fast someplace, so it would keep my body heat up. But, it's so year after year of that, and then a cold, miserable winter where you get rain. Rain comes in and it rains for 5 or 10 days every day. So you got to wear heavy shoes to keep your feet dry. You got to put some kind of sweater or something on, and then over that put a water-resistant raincoat like a Gore-Tex or something, and put something on your head to keep your hair dry. And it would be day after day after day, cold, miserable weather. I mean, like years of that, I got sick of it, So I moved out of there. At one point, I moved down to San Bruno by the airport, where the fog wouldn't roll in down in San Bruno until about 7 o'clock at night, maybe 8 o'clock in the summer. So you would be warm all day into the evening. And then when you wanted to go to sleep at night, it was nice. The fog rolled in and cooled everything off. So they didn't have air conditioners there either. Just open up your windows, and it was nice and cool. It was fun. It was a nice place to live. I lived in a complex. I had the jacuzzi, a few swimming pools, a gym. So I'd go to the jacuzzi at night sometimes, and that was a lot nicer. It was a lot warmer than San Francisco, but it wasn't hot. Like if you moved down to Palo Alto or Silicon Valley, Sunnyvale or something like that, it would get really hot, like in the 90s, Then at one point, then I moved back to San Francisco, and that was not so much fun. And then I moved to Marin County, in Sausalito, and that was where the perfect weather was. Yeah. It was, in the winter, all you had to do was wear a wool shirt, like Pendleton or something like that, and the fog would roll in about 7 o'clock every night and cool it off. You didn't need air conditioning, and during the day you had to run fans, and it was great. The weather was really good. It got about half the rain, or even a third of the rain that you got in San Francisco, and it was nice. I mean, but San Francisco was just miserable. I mean, the weather was, oh, can't, you know. Anyway, so I just digress. So, what else is going on in Israel? The soldiers are getting weary of the war, and it's just everybody wants it to stop. It's not going to stop till the two witnesses and Jehovah stop it. That's when it stops. It's just going to escalate to the point where they're going to come to the borders. So if you're sitting there and your time frame is telling you that, oh, you got 6 months, a year, I don't see anything like that at all. Nothing like that at all. Way, 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 way shorter. I just don't see it. Okay. The fires are increasing. Earthquakes are getting there. Volcanoes are there. The continuing whirlwind of the Lord with tornadoes and storms is there, and flash flooding is there. Israel's fighting on 8 fronts, or it has aggression on 8 fronts. America's making enemies like crazy. Trump acts like he's crazy, lies like crazy, It's just going, and like I said, we should not be looking for armies and soldiers and terrorists to start the destruction of Washington, D.C., which is how it's going to start. It's going to come from the Lord. And then after that, I think the sleeper agents will start going nuts, and then the enemy armies will start coming in. Now, China is getting friendly with Canada, and I think now with Trump's extra 10% on tariffs, they'll become friendlier yet. And I think that they'll turn against America, and they'll let China in, along probably with North Korea and Russia, to attack the daughter of Babylon. And Trump is just provoking that. Where is his 51st state with Mexico and Canada and Greenland? Fall apart. Don't forget he was going to get rid of Obamacare, and that fell apart. I know somebody in the New York area that went on, just got old enough to do the Social Security over there. They have a health care, what do they call it? Medicare or Medicaid or whatever it is. You get it for free when you get Social Security, but it doesn't cover much. But it covers stuff, Most people buy what's called supplemental. So America gives you crap national health insurance. Okay? It's crap. Because anybody that can afford the supplemental buys the supplemental. People told me that in other parts of the United States that the supplemental runs about $600 a month. Now, I can't remember if that's for a couple or a single person, but in the New York metropolitan area, the supplemental comes in 2 forms, a prescription form and a medical form, like surgeries, hospital stays, tests, everything but medicine prescriptions. And the total for the supplemental is $1,500 a month. Now that's in a very high New York metropolitan area, which is also called the tri-state, which is, what is that? New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. So that area is so expensive. Could you imagine that? So if somebody's at the high end of Social Security, I think they might be at 3,500 bucks a month now. There's very few people at that level. But if they're at that level, then they got to spend 1,500 on supplemental. You know, and that's your Obamacare. And Trump doesn't do anything about that. Trump doesn't talk about it. Trump doesn't care. Now, the wealthy people don't care. They reach Social Security age, and I think when that happens, if you're on a retirement pension from, let's say you work for Lockheed and you're retired and you get into Social Security, I think their health coverage goes away and you have to buy the Social Security. I think that's what they probably do. So they would have to go buy supplemental, of course. And could you imagine those kind? Now, I think if you were in rural Oklahoma or something like that, you'd probably be at someplace around 300 to 600 a month a person. But in an expensive area like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, and places like that where it's costly, you could be at 900, 1,000, 1,500. 1,500 New York is probably the worst in America. But, you could be at 1,000 in other places. It's really nuts. So Trump's not interested in doing anything like that. Now the tariffs, do they affect the average American? Yeah, they hurt them because you're going to have to spend more on goods. More. Yes, more. You're paying the tariffs. A lot of the stuff coming in from foreign companies there's no product in America that could be made anywhere close in price. I mean, even look, you look at men's shirts. Okay, I don't know what the deal is today, but we used to buy, going back, say 70s or 80s, I would buy work shirts, would be maybe like Arrow shirt or Hathaway or I don't know, different. A shirt was $12, $15, and they were all cotton, a long sleeve shirt with a collar, and but fast forward to 2005 or something, and the shirts were being made in I don't know where, but when you look at them, the fabric is so thin. You hold them up to the light, you could see the light through it. They hardly put any fabric in these shirts. So they're probably made in China or Vietnam or other countries dirt cheap for, you know, starvation wages. But you look at Hilfiger now, Tommy Hilfiger, and Polo, Ralph Lauren Polo, have pretty good shirts. I haven't bought any in years, but I have some left over from many, many years ago. And they're pretty good shirts, but they were making them in these third world countries too, and selling them to you for big money, like Rolex and Birkin bags, you know. These people have been doing this for 25, 30 years, 35 years maybe, making stuff in third world countries and selling them, you know, cheap. I remember in the 50s and 60s, living in New York, the best sweaters, or some of the best sweaters, were called Italian knit sweaters. And they made shirts, pullover shirts and button shirts that were like a sweater with Italian knit wool. and they would be rather comfortable to wear in a lousy cold winter climate. They were nice, and there was a store in the Bronx called Alexander's. It was a discount store, and the Italian guys would make jokes. They'd say Alexander's is selling Italian knit sweaters made in Puerto Rico. And it was true, every bit true. They were calling it Italian knit sweater, and you'd see on the label, made in Puerto Rico. So because they were having tax advantages with Puerto Rico, it's a tax haven. They would go make stuff in Puerto Rico instead of in America. Yeah. So these people make the stuff in these other countries so cheaply, and America is so unbelievably expensive to make anything in. I don't know what Trump's up to with this. I can't imagine it. Why are Mercedes Benzes so expensive? Because the people that work on these cars in Germany want to make $80, $90, $100 an hour. That's why. One big reason. The second big reason is it's a good car. Okay? Are the American cars good? They are. But they're not like a Mercedes, but they're still good. Do you need them? No. When you get in a small Chevy or something like that, and let's say you live in Atlanta and you drive to Miami, and somebody gets in a Mercedes-Benz for $180,000 and they go take the same route, you're probably going to get there at the same time. Okay? Because the guy in the Mercedes, there's no Autobahn in America. He's not going to be able to go and sit there and run 135 miles an hour and get there twice as fast as you. The police will be chasing him all over the place. They'll bump him off the road if he doesn't stop. They'll have helicopters. They'll put spikes out. They'll kill him. I mean, if the guy doesn't stop, they'll just about kill him or kill him. So you can't do that. So what are they, what's the difference? Well, I've had them, and, you're going to be more relaxed in the Mercedes. It's going to be better seats. You're going to have better ergonomic layout in the cabin. And you're going to have, that's about it. I mean, is it really going to be a monumental difference? No. Is it going to be a difference? Yeah. One time in the 60s, a friend of mine, I had a Triumph TR3, which was not an extremely fast car. It had 105 horsepower, but it had a great deal of maneuverability because it was very small and low to the ground. And it had a 4-cylinder engine, and a friend of mine had the family car, Dodge Dart. And we were dumb kids, and we decided to race from the Bronx to Midtown Manhattan, right? And see who gets there first. Now, we both knew that we weren't going to go driving on the East River Drive, which is 35, 45 miles an hour. We weren't going to drive at 90, because if the cops got a hold of us, we'd have a big problem with that. Even if you were a cop and you started driving 90, you're going to get in trouble with them. I mean, they're not going to like it. If you're in the same department as them, they're going to call you sergeant or your lieutenant or something like that and complain about you. Or if you're from another department, they're going to do the same thing. If it's a 40 and you're going to drive at 55, the guy's going to pull you over, look at your badge and say, you can go, and walk away. But if you're going double the speed limit, no, he ain't going to do that. He's going to think you're crazy. So anyway, he got there about the same time as me. Maybe I beat him by a half a minute or a minute or so. It wasn't, these stuff doesn't work. So anyway, another interesting thing is I got this Grok, which is the Elon Musk X artificial intelligence called Grok. So They don't let you really use the free version. They let you use it once and then it blocks you and gives you so I saw they really don't want you using it for free. So I looked at it and I saw for $29 a month, you can get an advanced version of that. And then for about $250 a month or $300 a month, you can get an even more advanced. But, of course, I'm not going to do that. So I bought the $29 one, which means they don't bother you with ads and they let you use it indefinitely. And what do I think about it compared to Google intelligence in the search? Well, the first thing is a lot of times when I want to use Google intelligence, I put a question in Google search and it doesn't respond. It doesn't know the answer, so it's hit or miss. It may or may not respond. Second thing is not that thorough and the searching isn't that deep. So it's a superficial searcher. And is it good? Yes. Is it free? Yeah, but it's limiting. And I tried it with Bible and it comes up with crap. And I tried it Grok with the Bible and it comes up with something not as bad as Google was, but it misses the boat. Okay, it doesn't get it. So, but I didn't buy it to learn Bible from, So it searches X, which I don't think Google artificial intelligence does. I think there could be litigation problems with searching X unless Google becomes a member of X, and I think they would have to be like a super member to do 4 or 5 million searches a day on X or so. So they don't search X, and well, this thing I bought from Grok, it searches X, and then it searches everything else on the internet, and it does translations. Apparently, I haven't figured out how to make it work yet. And you can set it for typing, and that's how I was doing it. And then it says you can do it for speak. So I set it on for speak, and this thing was, giving me the answers and talking it back to me. Where Google, I don't know if it'll speak it back to you, maybe, I don't know, but this thing does. So it takes it from you verbally and gives it back to you verbally, plus writes it down. Then the thing didn't turn off. So I'm sitting there talking on the phone to people, and it's talking to me. And, so I'm saying, well, I don't need you right now, shut off. And then it says, okay, I understand, right? And then I'll talk again, and it comes back at me again, asking me stuff. What am I going to do today? What are my plans? What could I help you with? It's, what is it doing? Spying on me? Why is it asking me my plans all the time? I don't know. It might just be that's trying to be cute. But, you can't use it for Bible, research. You could use it to, if you wanted to know more about the Peloponnesian War, or you wanted to know more about the Civil War and the Battle of Gettysburg, or I don't know, something, it'd probably be pretty good for that. I wouldn't use it for Bible stuff, but if you want to use it for other things, it's not bad. Like if I wanted to know where's a place I could buy snow tires in Israel, it would come back at me and probably say, what cities in Israel? Then I could say any city in Israel, and then it would go to search, and then it would, if it does exist, it would give it to me. So if I said, where can I buy Godiva chocolate in northern Israel, it would start defining northern Israel, and then it would start searching, and it would start giving me hits. These are the kind of things, I don't need Godiva chocolate, but I could actually get it 300-400 meters from the house. I know where I can buy it, and it's good chocolate. But the Israeli chocolate's far cheaper, and it's pretty awfully good. So I don't know. The Grok thing is a pretty interesting toy. Um, it's deeper than the Google intelligence. It wants to. Google artificial intelligence is a search tool only. The Grok thing wants to work with me about everything going on in my life. Like it talks to me. I stopped. The way I got it to stop talking to me is I rebooted the device, the iPad, and I don't turn on the voice anymore. I got to figure out how to turn the voice off so it stops, but I didn't know how to do it. So I don't really think I need it to help me with my life, but you can do things like say, I bought dog food today. I've got a 3-week supply. Can you remind me in 2 weeks to buy more of this food? And then when the day comes, it'll start nagging you to buy the food, right? Now, you might be able to do that with other devices in Apple on the phone and stuff. I don't know what else. So I asked him, what does the $300 device, the version of Grok, do that this one doesn't? And it has, the one I got has a 128,000 something in it for its intelligence and memory, and the other one has double that amount. And the other one works with images better than the one the chances of me buying it for $300 something is zero. And I could cancel the one I got anytime I want. But I've got to learn what other things I could do with it. I'm not sure if it has much application for me, other than searching for things, and I've got to explore the translation possibilities of this. I haven't done that yet, but I believe it's got tremendous translation. I think if let's say I have it on my iPad and it's listening, and I turn on my phone on speaker and get a voicemail, or I get the voice messaging machine in Hebrew, and it talks fast, I could play it into Grok, and Grok would translate it into English for me in almost real time. I could try that. I haven't done that yet. Now, the Google thing, I don't think is set up for that. Now, I don't know about Chat GPT, because when I went and looked at that one, they were saying they're going to use my personal information and data or something like that, so I immediately dropped it. I know people that use Chat GPT, and they're rather impressed with it. I'm rather impressed with Grok, to be honest with you. Grok is Elon Musk, and he's pretty good at stuff, and so's Google, but I think Musk is better. Google's too much of a fat, over-bloated corporation, where Musk keeps his stuff trimmed down, lean and mean, I was impressed. I would like to see a demo of what you could do with the 300 a month thing, but I don't have any reason to. I don't know if this thing could make a video. I think you need a different type of device, but there's an Israeli company that's building one now. I don't think it's finished, where it creates images for you of people that don't exist, that talk in any language, and I don't know what it'll say. Maybe it'll write the script for you, or you write it, or it helps you write. I don't know. But I know there's other companies now that are selling them, where you can manufacture a video out of nowhere, And I imagine if you want to put somebody else in the video, as if they're talking the words you input, you could probably do it. So you could probably make a video of Elon Musk telling you, not to use X or buy a Tesla car. Oh, somebody outside. And you could do that, and it would probably work and make a video like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, let me take a break, and we'll do some binding and loosing. Not yet, no. Example of grok on this live stream, except I'm afraid I'll get a strike for it. Used to be you would not have to worry about strikes, and you could put, play videos, but so many people today are afraid to do anything like that on their YouTubes because of the strikes. I used to watch people that would rate restaurants, right? And one guy was pretty interesting. He was in Japan, and he goes into a restaurant in Japan, and they're playing music, and he starts going nuts. He says, "Shut it off! Bring the volume up!" He says, "My gosh, if they pick this up, they'll give me a strike on the live stream because of the music playing in the background." It's it's the movie stars, the popular movie stars, and the entertainers that the people love that did this to YouTube. YouTube never cared about this. If you go back about, 12 years, maybe even 9 or 10 years, something like that, you were able to go to YouTube and watch any movie. Okay, like you could go there and watch all the Star Trek movies. They were there. Or the Star Wars movies, or the James Bond movies, or the Mission Impossible movies, or any of that stuff. They were all up there for free. They had varying quality differences, You can watch whatever you wanted like that for free. Old TV shows and stuff. You wanted to watch Casablanca or any of that stuff. It was there for free. And what happened? This copyright stuff, the stars, the music, you were able to get all the music. Well, were you able to get the music from YouTube? Yeah. So all the musicians and all the movie stars in the movie houses started putting pressure to stop this stuff from being shared so they could get more royalties. So what they do now is they sell you YouTube and not so much. Okay, Netflix and Disney don't sell you movies and TV shows. You pay one price, whatever they have, you watch, right? Most of the others, if not all the others, are just trying to sell stuff to you. Like Amazon has some free content and a massive amount of paid content. And they're really there, like Apple Pay, just to get you to pay for an old movie, to watch a movie 30, 40 years old or 15 years old, and pay them $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 to watch that movie. Yeah. That's what they did by doing this. And people they should reject their movie stars for this. The movie star, these really old movies, I could see the first 2 years with the movie. Okay? It's in the theaters, and of course, when it's in the theaters, they don't want you going into the theater with a phone and recording it and putting it on YouTube like kids used to do. The problem is the quality of the movie was so bad with the echo, and it was terrible most of the time. So a lot of times they would, people that worked in a movie theater would play the movie when nobody was there late at night or very early in the morning, and they would set up a good camera with a tripod that didn't move and record it off the screen, and it was pretty good. Or they copied it off the original, movie that they were playing in the projection booth, and they would put it out there. So I could see they didn't want that. They wanted, so the movie circulates in the big countries and then around the world, and by the end of 2 years, it's over. And also the selling of the DVD, they used to sell the DVD and stuff physically, that all would be over really within a year and a half or so. And then, but to go fight ruthlessly for motion pictures that were 9 or 10 years, 15 years old, and try to make money off of those things is pretty sad. And since COVID, most of the so-called movie stars don't work anymore. In America, anyway, they don't work. I mean, Tom Cruise does. A few do, probably 5 or 10% of them. But the big names, I would say at least 90, 95% of them don't work anymore. Because they can't get the kind of money they used to get. A so-so movie star would get 10 million. A big player would get 25 million. They don't, for a movie, they can't get that kind of money anymore because people don't go to the movie theaters. Not that many people are going to go there and drop, what is it, $10, $12 a ticket. Per person, when they could just get the movie and watch it at home on a big screen TV with stereo sound, wraparound sound, and they buy it, and as many people as are in the house can watch it all at the same time it depends if they rent it or buy it. So they can't get that big money anymore. They would get $10, $12 a seat and fill the theaters up, but now people buy it for, what do they spend, $20, $30, and they have maybe 6 or 8 people in the house watch it, or friends come over, and they don't get anywhere near that amount of money. And Amazon Prime or whoever's doing it is keeping a lot of that money, so they can't pay these guys what they want. So these guys are just not working. They've got so much money, they don't need to work. They're sitting there, a lousy movie stars, when COVID hit, had, 40, $60 million. They invest that money. The big ones had 3, 4, 500 million or a billion because they've been working for decades and investing in, they have plenty of money. They don't bother working. The musicians don't bother working anymore either. I know someone who's a studio musician, a real studio musician, and they don't get that much. You get a good amount of money per hour. I don't know. It's pretty generous, but, nothing like the actual musician. So they're just, what are they trying to do? They're trying to bleed royalties from getting people to watch their old movies because they're paying, people are, if they're renting it, they're spending, let's say $8, $9, $7, $10 to watch their old movies. And when you look at all the different services around the world and you add it up, they're getting a nice income on some of their more popular movies. It's stupid. I mean, it's, and the people worship these movie stars that did this to them. It used to be for many, many years, you could just watch movies on YouTube, and then they had other services you could use also where you could actually download the movies. And, when you were in a country that had no copyright laws on this, which a lot of countries don't have, I don't think Israel has any, or any that they care about, and other countries don't. Probably there's 80 countries in the world that don't care about this. They don't have laws. You're not breaking the law of the land. So it was interesting, So then they started hiring private detectives, and they would scour the internet. And when they found somebody with a movie, they would complain to the internet provider that was giving them the website and the backbone that was providing the bandwidth to the website sellers if they had to, and they would just keep working their chain of command up the pike to get that movie taken off. And they probably had hundreds of these detectives working the internet for years, driving this stuff off the internet. And then finally they drove the companies like YouTube and Google and a lot of others crazy with complaints. They couldn't go and take YouTube to court because the movie star would emerge in the case, and the director and the movie house, and that would have gotten bad PR for them. So they didn't go to court. Also, suing Google and YouTube is going to be a rather ugly event. Their lawyers would be as good a lawyer as exists in the world, and they would find a lot of reasons why Google was just an innocent bystander and shouldn't have to police every upload, and stuff like they get out of it. Or if they had to suffer damages, they would be really minimal, like $10,000 or something. Yeah. So instead of doing that, they would just harass YouTube and Google and these other services. They would harass them endlessly. Constant emails, complaining to the upline, constant complaints, non-stop, all the time. They probably sent complaints under multiple different identities from different accounts, complaining about it. And they just drove these people crazy because there's an obligation that a big provider like a YouTube is supposed to deal with copyright complaints effectively. They can't ignore them. That would give them a legal problem. So they got them to they became so annoying that it was easier to just make sure they're not there. Now, I occasionally see a new movie up on YouTube that's even in the theaters, but it lasts 1 or 2 or 3 days and then they find it and they get rid of it. What I think happens is you have to know where the heck to go, and they probably upload these bootleg movies as a private movie, and people have to know where it is, and maybe they pay people for access, and they don't put the title up there. They're not going to say, Tom Cruise latest Mission Impossible number so and so. They won't say that. They'll just give it video number VT0016Z4Y or something, right? So it'll be meaningless to YouTube. And then they probably have a website that's discreet somewhere, and the subscribers go over there and look at a list of the newest movies and what the code number is, and then go into their private YouTube and search for that code number, and they watch the movie. And I don't think YouTube gives a hoot what you do on your private. I never did a private video that I remember. Maybe I did. I don't know if they give a hoot what you do in the private video, because they're not going to get complaints about it, And people were selling this on Telegram years ago. I think Telegram stopped it. They were setting up bootleg channels on Telegram with the latest. So I imagine if you stay up on it, you could find the latest way to watch the movies for free. I don't give a hoot about it. I don't really bother with it. But, people are just gullible. They should have started a big PR campaign against the movie stars and the music stars for doing this. But, so basically the musicians now make no money off their new work because you can't sell it, as cassettes or DVDs. Nobody's going to go drop $20 or $15 or $30 on your new DVD album. They're going to get it on the online services. So if they make new songs and they put them up, every time, somebody plays a song, maybe they get a tenth of a penny. Really, something like that. So at the end of the month, they may wind up making, $1,500 or $2,500 or something, or $4,500. But they're not going to make, $900,000 or anything like that. Nothing like that. They don't make that kind of money anymore. So they're the ones that were successful in the past, that are multimillionaires and save their money. They throw concerts, live concerts, right? They back it themselves. They don't go to the promoters. They go to somebody that knows how to put a concert together for them and gets them the stadium and all that stuff. And they don't work for a promoter like the old Bill Graham in the old days, They do it themselves. They just fund it, and then they get the tickets sold. And they probably sell tickets anywhere from $30 to $150 or something. And they'll get thousands of people coming if they're a popular group, and they'll put on a performance, and they'll make a lot of money, and they'll have a good time. And they'll make a few $1,000,000 off it, and that's it. But there's very few that can do that. And as time rolls on, they get older and their audience gets older and they're not going to want to go to a concert, and it falls apart. So the whole thing has changed, It's interesting. All right, let's check the live stream, see if I got any questions. What is the best Israeli military industry firearm? I think you're asking me for IMI. I'm not up on the latest, but they used to make a 45 ACP with, I had one with a 10 round clip, so it's 10 plus 1, which isn't bad for 45 ACP. And it was built like a tank. It's not a lightweight gun. It's not an overly large gun either. And it's not a 1911 style either. And I never had that gun jam. I don't know what you'd have to do to make that thing jam. Put, Elmer's glue in there or something. I don't know. Short of, hitting it with a ball peen hammer, and I don't think you'll get it to jam. It's very reliable. It's very accurate. It's a very potent round. Mine came in black. It was probably about a 4-inch barrel. It was probably about 30, 33 ounces in that range, 29 anyway. And it was rather thin. It wasn't thick. So you could carry it, but it had weight. It was nothing like, if you just want, casual carry. I hate Glocks, but I carried them for many years. You get a Glock, a 9mm or a 40. I didn't like the 40. The round's not accurate. The 9 is good. But it's a weak caliber, but they're easy to carry. They're light, they're easy, they work. Now I understand their crap and they split open. You can't use them. The best handgun, in my opinion, that I ever came across was the Heckler & Koch full size 45 ACP, 12 in the clip, 1 in the chamber. And that, I had 2 of those in my life and they were absolutely superb. Better than the Israeli, but big and bulky, but easily sustained recoil, very accurate. I mean, you could at even 75 feet put the bullet holes over on each other. Or maybe it's 50 feet. No, I think 75 feet we were doing it. It's dead accurate, and it's really a good gun, but it's got bulk, So if that helps you any idea whatever happened to Nick Elizondo? Nope. No idea. I'm not sure I know who you're talking about. It sounds like a familiar name, but I don't know anything about that, no. Ireland is going a little nuts. I have a video on my Telegram. Some guy went after 2 Ireland cops in the street. I think he was trying to knife them. They took him down, gave him a little bit of a licking and handcuffed him. Just these, a whack job, I think he was a Muslim guy, by the way he was screaming and chanting and stuff. I think that's what he was, but I can't give you a written guarantee on that. I didn't pay that much attention when I watched it, but he just went up on 2 cops in the street and was really trying to knife them to death. And they didn't shoot him. I don't know if they do the Irish cops have guns all the time? I don't know. If anybody knows, let me know. There are cops in England, and there's a bunch that don't carry guns all the time. And they have, I guess, stun guns and tasers and pepper spray and stuff instead. And there are others that carry guns. Going out on the street as a uniformed police officer in this day and age without a gun is, in my opinion, you got to have rocks in your head. And you're crazier and stupider than the crazy terrorists to do that. You got to be a complete idiot to do that, in my book. because there's nothing like a gun to get rid of a threat coming at you from a person. There's no equal to it. Okay, swords, chemical sprays, no, no. There's people that the pepper spray and other sprays aren't going to be that effective on, but there's also people, because of drugs, there's also people that bullets are not effective on. People that were on what the heck, it's something like a speed drug, meth. You can sometimes hit them in the torso 5, 6 times, and they'll still keep kicking. Not long, maybe 20, 30 seconds. But you don't want somebody coming at you for 20, 30 seconds. Eventually, the blood loss causes them, their vision starts to go away, fade away, and then once that happens, they're seconds away from going unconscious, But, if they got a knife or they're just biting you or punching you or choking you, 20, 30 seconds is a long time, and they're not really feeling pain. So if they're sitting there choking you and you try smacking their hands away from you, you might not get them away because they've got extraordinary strength from the drugs. So if you start stomping on their foot with the heel of your shoe and fracture it, they may not even know it. You start scraping down their shin bone with the heel of your shoe, they may not know it. You stick your thumbs in their eyes, they'll know it, but they may not let go. It's a scary thing. There was a guy that went into a federal building around the early 80s in San Francisco, and he came in with no shirt on in the cold winter, and the guys, the police, these were federal police that worked in the buildings, they saw the guy and they started to, confront him. They didn't want him getting in the building, and he started going crazy on him, and they were hitting him with nightsticks to no effect. And then one guy got him, I believe, 5 times with the 357 in the torso. Good hits at close range, and he was still kicking for a little while. 5 357s. Most of the time, what the cops used to say back in my day when I was in law enforcement is that you shoot him with the 357 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point by Remington with at least a 4-inch barrel, and it was like they got hit by lightning. And this guy, the guy put 5 in him. It was, I think it was methamphetamine. It might have been a derivative of that, but and when they have the Muslim terrorists knife people in Israel, they give them a combination drug. It makes them more resilient to gunshot wounds. It's a combination, I think it's ecstasy and speed or something. It's 2 street drugs combined. I'm guessing, I believe pretty strongly one of them is ecstasy, and I think the other one is speed, but I can't remember the other one. And they take that before they go to work to kill people, and it gives them a sense of euphoria, and it helps them keep focused, and they tolerate pain. I saw a guy took his car, rammed it into an old Jewish guy on the sidewalk. He got out of his car, picked up a hatchet, and started trying to hitting Jews in the street with hatchet. There were civilians there that were armed, and they started shooting them with 9mm. One guy hit him at about 10 to 15 feet away. He got a torso hit with the 9, which was probably a full metal jacket. The guy fell down. The guy wasn't very big, 5'6", 5'7", maybe 5'8", and 140 pounds, the terrorist. So he fell down, and he got right back up and started going back to work, and they shot him again, and then another guy shot him, and then by the 3rd shot, he was out of it. it took 3 rounds of 9mm before he was out of it. That's a lot of 9mm to take, 3 hits in the torso at close range. And these drugs are, pretty scary. So even with a gun, there's people that are resilient. But, at close range, I would rather have a knife. If you're in an elevator, let's say in Chicago or New York, and somebody comes in the elevator to rob you, which is not a rare event because they could work privately, but a lot of elevators have a camera now. But a gun's not the best thing to use in an elevator. If you hold it out, he's going to try to swat it away. If you hold it up against your hip, you're going to have trouble hitting him in an elevator. So a good knife is much better if you got the stomach to use the knife, Sticking people with a knife doesn't do much good, by the way. Unless it's a Bowie knife where you're at, at least 10 inches or 9 inches and you got a nice wide blade, then it's effective. But these 4-inch blade knives and smaller, stabbing, just sticking it in a person, yeah, if you're going to stick it in 8 or 10 times, boom, 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 yeah, that'll work. But just sticking it in once or twice, it's, the guy's got a long period of time. I mean, if he waits hours, he's likely going to die, but he's got a good amount of time usually. Unless you hit a vital organ or an artery or something like that, he's got a good amount of time to get to the hospital and get repaired. A long time, usually, right? But if you slash with a short blade, then he's in bad shape because the blood loss is going to get more pronounced. Now, the Bowie knife was so deadly, they made it illegal in some states back in the 1800s, and it's still illegal in some states. A good Bowie is going to be about a 12-inch blade. It's going to be 1.75 inches thick. At the top, it's going to be 1/4 inch thick of steel. So when you stick that in somebody, you're making a horrific wound channel. A bullet is like this. This thing is huge. It's like getting hit with a bullet, it's the size of 10 or 12 bullets or something put together. It doesn't have the speed of a bullet. It doesn't have the shock capability, the hydroshock, but it's very deadly. And also you can chop with it. So people are under a myth. They buy these 3.5 inch, knives, 3 7/8, and they think they're going to stab somebody. And watch pictures or videos of people in jail getting stabbed by other inmates with shanks, a spiked instrument. It's not a slasher, it's a stabber. And they'll stab the guy sometimes way over a dozen times till the guy stops moving. So people have these myths, they're going to just go like that and stop the guy, If you got a Bowie knife, yeah, it's probably going to work. But if you're carrying, a 4-inch folding cold steel or Spyderco or something like that, it ain't going to do anything. You got to have a very, very sharp one of those, a 4-incher that's extremely sharp. Serrated is better. And you've got a slash. And it gets gruesome where you're going to slash, but the optics are what you want, in the neck and the top of the head, because the blood will drip down. And if you do the arms, you got to come in twice, like an X, or just do it 2 times in the same area and try to have the slash marks cross each other. That stops the movement. 1 slice on the arm won't cut it. 2 generally will, especially if the cuts cross each other's path, like an X. You need 2. In the eye, it works extremely well. Anyway, slashers, but it's a hard target to hit. So, yeah, I'd rather have a knife in an elevator. But, I'd rather not have it at all, you know. You can't use the martial arts skills that effectively in an elevator because you're so close. And that's a real problem in New York, getting mugged in an elevator. What it really boils down to is if you're in the elevator or he comes in the elevator with you, you have to immediately go into attack mode, not actually hit him, but you immediately position yourself with your feet and your hands where you want it, or grab your weapon, maybe not present it, but hold it. If you don't have a weapon, just get ready, and you can't wait. You have to be, and then wait for him to attack. He probably won't attack because he doesn't know what he got himself into. And he didn't commit yet, so he's probably just going to get off the elevator. He's not going to push it. Now, if he's stoned out of his mind, he will, and then you got to get ready for it. But it's going to happen so fast and so brutally and mercilessly that you better be ready for it. And when he comes in, you've got to take him out. Like, you know, strike for the throat or the eyes, or break a foot or something. You know, you got to be very, very vicious yourself. And you can't sidestep his lunge when you're in an elevator. You know, you can't drop back to the side and, you know, get out of the way. That's the problem. And if he's got a knife and he's in the elevator and you got a gun, it could be a problem. But if you've got a knife, it could be a problem too. But you can attack the hand holding the knife, and if you hit it twice with a big thick blade, not a little Spyderco or, you know, cold steel, a nice bowie, and you get that arm twice, you know, boom, boom, too good cut, and his hand's gonna hang loose. He'll drop the knife, and it's over for that. Once he drops the knife, it's over. Then you can just clock him out, you know. But yeah, that's a scary thing, you know. So New York, what I used to do when I come home late at night from my parents' house in the Bronx, I would go in the building and I would be very careful in the lobby of the building, what's going on, make sure there's no one in the lobby. If there was someone in the lobby that I didn't like the look of, I would just walk outside back in the street. He's not going to follow me out in the street. Why? What's the point? And then I could go to a phone booth, or so they didn't have cell phones, and call the cops, and, you know, that's that. You know, they'd go in there and they, you know, pull their guns out on them. And the other, the other thing they did that was more nefarious is you would walk in the elevator in the lobby, and they'd be down in the basement, and they'd listen because you could hear, especially at night, it's quiet. And as soon as the elevator was on the lobby and you got it, you opened it to get in, they would ring the bell in the basement, the button for the elevator to come down to the basement before you could ring a bell. So what I used to do is I would keep the door to the elevator open, lean in and push my floor, and then lean out and see that the elevator had the arrow going up, not down. If it was going down, I wouldn't get in it. And if I was coming into the lobby and the elevator wasn't in the lobby, I would want to see where it was. So I would call for the elevator. If I saw it was on floor 3, oh, that's fine. If I saw it was in the basement, well, then I would be pretty concerned, and I'd put my body up against the door to make sure I could and look in the elevator through the window and make sure nobody was in there waiting for me to come in. If they were, I would just wedge the door shut in the elevator and keep them trapped in there. You know, they wouldn't like that. So they would ring a bell and send the elevator back down to the basement or something. Or, you know, it was New York was a bad place. Elevators cause a lot of problems. It's very, very hard to conduct a good fight in an elevator. It's not not a good thing, especially the other guy has a knife or something. They're dangerous things. There's people that run martial arts schools in New York that build mock elevators out of plywood and practice with their students defending themselves in the elevator. It has a door and everything. They also build staircases, real staircase in the martial arts studio, and practice fighting on a staircase when you're higher than the assailant or the lower and so forth. Because that's another area they hit you on the staircase. That's a bad place, but I guess America's a bad place all around. So let's see what we can do for spiritual warfare today. Let's start with helping all the believers. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose upon all the true believers with the true gospel your shalom peace and your joy and your patience and your calm and your faith and the gifts of the Spirit, that they would be happy, healthy, and whole and at peace and rest. And I loose this on all the true believers now, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can join in. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind all you unclean spirits from having any communication of any sort with any true believer with the true gospel. You shall not give them any thoughts, ideas, notions, dreams, visions, or anything else. You shall not give them any lies or deceptions of any sort. For the next 5 years, continuously, this binding is in effect, beginning now, and any previous works of yours in this area are cast null and void, of no value, no effect forever, as if they were targeting true believers with the true gospel. And this is all done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that binding. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. You can do it in the video, or you can do it in the live stream. Now, I'm still very concerned about a lot of different people. It's not one or two people, it's a lot of people that are getting input from unclean spirits and thinking that it's coming from the Holy Spirit or from Yeshua or from Jehovah. I have a feeling there's a lot of this going on. And you've got to just be so careful, okay? And you've got to give ground for this to happen. You're perhaps thinking of yourself as super believer, and you've got special relationship with God. Well, where's your work? Where's the fruit of this? Show me the fruit, and then maybe we can consider this real, but where's the fruit? If the fruit's not there, it's probably not the case. Okay? So why are then you got a special relationship and you're dealing with it specially. Now, you got to be careful about this. Now, some people are thinking they're talking to God and they're talking to unclean spirits, or they're communicating with them and receiving input from them, and they're being told things or led to believe things that never come to pass. And you have to open yourself up to understand that God is never going to tell you something's going to happen and it never happens. That's not the way he does it. He knows the end from the beginning. You got to be very, very careful. I know we all like to ask the Lord, could I do this? Could I do that? And I frequently see people getting advice that to me sounds very unusual or atypical of the Lord, but they get it. And a lot of times it's not good advice, in my opinion. Now, the Lord can deal with everybody in different ways. But when you start getting into the position of super believer, Now, the unclean spirits they might tell you, oh, you're nothing, you're just a regular believer. If you really had an anointing on you and you were destined for something special with the Lord, do you think the unclean spirits would tell you that this is the case? Probably not. They would try to make you think you're nobody, just the regular run-of-the-mill believer, or make you even think you're a phony believer or anything like that. But if you're not anointed and destined, they'll probably play it up with you to make you think you are. And then you'll start buying into it, and then you're giving place to the devil, and you start believing the junk they sling at you. Now, if you're going to run around chasing these unclean spirits and listening to them and picking up anti-biblical advice and acting on it and believing things they're telling you that are not in the scriptures, and worse, contrary to the scriptures, are you going to get a chastening? If you really are a real believer, you will. If you're not, you won't. You'll get a bad chastening for that. So if you're getting something that you might construe as a chastening, you got to make sure, that you're working okay. I'm trying to give you the symptoms because, guys, I'm telling you, this problem is not so uncommon. It's common. It's not common, but it goes on. And you got to be careful with it, because if you've got the testimony of Yeshua and you're obeying the commandments as per Revelation 12, they're going to go after you. And one of the best ways to get you to go after you is to make you think they are the Holy Spirit or Jehovah or Yeshua. And you're talking with an unclean spirit, think you're talking with God, and they start leading you astray, and they're basically controlling you. And then bad things happen in your life. Now, I think that all of us are having bad things happen in our life, so, I mean, we got to take that with, caution, too. Let me show you that definitively. You could just pick it up simply out of Hosea 6:1-2. It's easy. So don't think that you're somebody special on the downside, where you're so bad you have to be busted up and punished worse. Sometimes I would think like that. Hosea 6:1. Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn and he will heal. So he hath torn. Okay. Now this is speaking of the Jews that are away from Jehovah. So Tariffs is torn. Let's see how Strong throws it into English. Pluck off, pull, into pieces. Okay, pieces. He hath torn and he will heal. He hath smitten, that strike or hurt. Okay. After 2 days, will he revive us? Kaya, bring to life. That's the everlasting life. And in the third day, that's the millennium. Raise us up. They're just trying to make you think that's the rapture. It's like stand up and we shall live in his sight. That's because Yeshua and the glory of God of Israel are both going to be enthroned in New Jerusalem. They Schofield Bible this out. So, it says, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He had smitten and he will bind us. Well, that's let us return. It means they're away. But we're not away, but we still get it because we're part of Israel, I think. It says he'll be like an enemy to Israel. So, he thwarts our ways so we don't get rich, we don't get well. We're all busted up and we got the true gospel. To whom much is given, much is expected. That could come on us too. Am I saying we're just hopelessly sinners that just got to keep severely getting punished? No, I don't think that's a correct analysis myself. No, I think it's just we're busted up. Now remember, who gets raised up? The feeble, the weak, not the bodybuilder athletics without any problems. No, it's the feeble, the weak. That's who survives in Israel. That's who gets it. The poor, the weak, the disheveled, that's who gets it. Gets raised up. So, you'll be more than what they had. You'll have better jewelry than them. You'll have better rich clothing and furniture and gold and silverware very shortly, days, weeks. You'll have better houses. You'll have better money situation than them. You're not going to live with a government, with a sick judicial system and legal system, with lawyers. There's not going to be any lawyers in Israel. There's going to be the councils that'll handle disputes based on Torah, not Talmud. You're not going to have a prison system. You'll have like a debtor's prison system. You're not going to have that kind of stuff. You're not going to have police. Woo, 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 woo. Your license and registration, please. The reason I stopped you is you were going 73 and a 65, and that's a violation of the law. My gosh, that traffic sign you drove by, that big white metal sign with the number 65 on it, oh, that sign's devastated. It's crying. It's in shock. It's never going to be the same again. It's going to have to get sanded and repainted. You've insulted it and hurt it so much by driving by it at that speed. It's a victim. That sign's a victim, and you got to pay the price because you destroyed that sign by driving by the road so fast. That's what they're trying to get us to believe. I keep telling you this, when the cop signs the ticket, he's the damaged party. He's the victim. How the heck is the cop a victim? All their governments, they control all the countries in every one, 100% of every one of their stinking countries and their stinking governments has got a rotten government with rotten laws, corrupt courts, a corrupt Congress, a corrupt leader, corporations that corrupt them and pay all of them, and it's all rotten to the core. That's how Satan gets the dominion over them, by keeping them in sin. Okay? Let's do an airport dump. That's always fun. Let's get some different airports today, though. They need a good airport dump every day, don't they? Unexpected, Let's try with countries. We'll try that. Let's say, please list the biggest airports in Europe. Okay. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I Command all you unclean spirits when I read the name of the airport to depart from every person in this airport. In the passenger terminal, in the parking lot, driving on the roads in the airport, in any airplanes on the runways or the grounds or the tarmac of the airport. People that work in the airport or are just there for any old reason. You shall immediately depart from them, never return unto them again. And the airports that this applies to, I shall read right now, and this is done irrevocably. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, Heathrow Airport, Istanbul Airport, Charles de Gaulle Airport, Amsterdam Airport, Schiphol, Madrid Baraja Airport, Frankfurt Airport, Barcelona Airport, Leonardo da Vinci Fiumicino Airport, Sheremetyevo International Airport, Gatwick Airport, Munich Airport, Lisbon Airport, Dublin Airport, Palma de Mallorca Airport, Orly Airport, Athens International Airport, Vienna Airport, Zurich Airport, Manchester Airport, Copenhagen Airport. This is all done now. Come out from these people, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with me in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach also. Okay, let's give the biggest airport in, okay. What are the largest airports in Africa? Not so many. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from every person in the following airports. When I read the name of the airport, you shall depart from them and never return unto them again. And this is done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach for the following airports. Cairo International Airport, O.R. Tambo International Airport, Addis Ababa Bole International Airport, Cape Town International Airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Depart from all these people now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, let's go to South America. Largest airports in South and Central America. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from everybody in any of these airports immediately. You shall depart from them, never return unto them. Shall apply to people in the driving around on the roads, in the parking lot, in the airplanes, on the tarmac, in the runway, or in any of the buildings or offices. It doesn't matter if they work there, they're passengers, for any reason they're there, you come out from them immediately, never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and this shall apply to the following airports. El Dorado International Airport, Arturo Moreno Benitez International Airport, Jorge, Jorge Chavez International Airport, Ministero Pistarini International Airport, Tucuman International Airport, Mexico City International Airport, Cancun International Airport. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. Now let's go to the Middle East. Largest airports in the Middle East. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from everybody in the following airports. When I read the name of the airport, you shall immediately depart from these people in the airport, never return unto them again. And that shall apply to people in and on the roads belonging to the airport, in the airplanes, on the tarmac or the runway, or anyone in any of the airport buildings or waiting lounges or boarding and unboarding areas or baggage claim areas. So you shall immediately depart from the people in these airports, never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, King Fahd International Airport, King Abdulaziz International Airport, Dubai International Airport, Hamad International Airport, King Abdulaziz International Airport, King Khalid International Airport. I guess B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I guess that's it. And now we go to Asia. What are the largest airports in Asia? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from any and all the people in the following airports, in or on the roads of the airport, shall apply to, okay, so you unclean spirits shall come out from people in the following airport, wherever they are in the airport, on the roads, in the passenger terminals, on the runway, in planes, in the tarmac, in the parking lot. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why they're in the airport. They can work there, be passengers there for any reason. You shall immediately depart from them, never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and it shall apply to the following airports: Hong Kong International Airport, Indira Gandhi International Airport, Beijing Capital International Airport, Dubai International Airport, Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Suvarnabhumi Airport, Guangzhou Baiyun International Airport, Incheon International Airport, Shanghai Pudong International Airport, Haneda Airport, Singapore Changi Airport, Bangkok International Airport, Beijing International Airport, Chengdu Shuangliu International Airport, Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport, Kunming Chang Shui International Airport, New Delhi International Airport, Shanghai International Airport, Shenzhen Bao'an International Airport, Soekarno Hatta International Airport, Taiwan Taoyuan International Airport, Tokyo International Airport, Beijing Daxing International Airport. Come out from them now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree. Now, let's do North America. What are the largest airports in North America? We got a lot. Okay, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from every person in the following airports that I will read the names off. When I read the name of the airport, you shall depart from every person in this airport, in or on the roads of the airport, in or on the buildings of the airport, the passenger terminals, the luggage area, the parking lots, or the parking areas, or in airplanes on the tarmac of the runway, or people on the tarmac and the runway. It doesn't matter if the people work there or are just there for another reason. You shall immediately depart from them. When I read the name of the airport, never return unto them again, ever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. This shall apply to Chicago O'Hare International Airport, John F. Kennedy International Airport, Denver International Airport. Wow, I could read this. Orlando International Airport, San Francisco International Airport, George Bush Intercontinental Airport, Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport, Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, Salt Lake City International Airport, Dulles International Airport, Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Los Angeles International Airport, Charlotte Douglas International Airport, Seattle Tacoma International Airport, and that's the Boston Logan International Airport, Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, Newark Liberty International Airport, LaGuardia Airport, Harry Reid International Airport, Toronto Pearson International Airport, Miami International Airport, Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, Philadelphia International Airport, Baltimore Washington International Airport, Ronald Reagan Washington International Airport, Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, Austin Bergstrom International Airport, Tampa International Airport, Raleigh Durham International Airport, Nashville International Airport, Vancouver International Airport, Calgary International Airport, Southwest Florida International Airport, Portland International Airport, Kansas City International Airport, Oakland International Airport, San Antonio International Airport, John Wayne Airport, Dallas Love Field, Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport, Sacramento International Airport, St. Louis Lambert International Airport, William P. Hobby Airport, Cancun International Airport, San Diego International Airport, Mexico City International Airport, Epley Airfield, Pittsburgh International Airport, Indianapolis International Airport. They'll come out from the people in all these airports now, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, and you can agree with that. Boy, we got a big toss at the airports today. They're not going to like that. Oh, no. They're not going to like that. Let's see what else we can get. What are the biggest private airports in North America? This is where the private jets go, kids. Okay. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from any person that is currently at any of these so-called private airports. You shall immediately depart from them and never return unto them again. In addition, you shall depart from any person that lands or otherwise is in or on the property of any of these private airports during the next year. You shall immediately depart from them. Whenever they are in or on the airport property, you shall depart from them, never return unto them again. And this shall be active for the next year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and it shall apply to the following airports: Teterboro Airport, Van Nuys Airport, Palm Beach International Airport, Dallas Love Field, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Well, that's basically it. Let me see what I can get from the world on this. Let me get a new search. This isn't too helpful. What are the largest private airports in Europe? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from every person that is currently in or on the grounds or buildings or runways of any of these private airports. You shall immediately depart from them when I read the name of the airport. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, you shall never return to them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and any person that goes in or upon the grounds of these airports in the next year, you shall depart from these people immediately as well, and never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, this shall apply to London Farnborough Airport, Nice Côte d'Azur Airport, Milan Linate Airport. Depart from these people in these airports, and now or in the future, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. Now I got a list of other airports here. Let me see. See if it's real. Nah, it's not. No, I think we got them over there. What are the largest private jet services? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to depart from any person or persons who uses any of these private jet services to rent, charter, lease, fly, or in any way, shape, or form get the use of an aircraft. You shall immediately depart from any person currently on any such aircraft and never return unto them again. And I will read you the names of these companies that it applies to. And you shall also depart from any person who gets in or on any aircraft owned, operated, controlled, leased, or rented by any of these private jet companies in the next year. You shall depart from any person that uses any of these planes for the next year, beginning now, continuously, and this shall apply to the following named private jet services and companies, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach: NetJets, FlexJet, Wheels Up, Fly Exclusive, Plane Sense, Jet Links, Air Share, Nicholas Air, Jet Aviation Business Jets, Vista Jet, Clay Lacey Aviation. It's all done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this, if you would. So we're really laying it on them. What are the biggest motion picture studios in the world? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from any person that steps foot on or in any grounds, buildings, vehicles, boats, planes, trains, or structures owned, operated, or controlled by any of the following motion picture studios. You shall immediately depart from these people whenever they come in contact with any of these motion picture studios, grounds, and vehicles, and so forth, and never return unto them again. And this shall be in effect for 1 year continuously, beginning now. And it shall apply, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, to Walt Disney Studios, any of their facilities anywhere in the world, Warner Brothers Pictures, any of their facilities anywhere in the world, Universe Pictures, anywhere in the world, Paramount Pictures, anywhere in the world, Sony Pictures, apply anywhere in the world, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. What else can we get? What are the most exclusive department stores in the world? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from any person currently in any of these department stores, any of their branches anywhere in the world. Now, if they're in there now, any person in there, you shall immediately depart from them, never return unto them again. And for the next 1 year continuously, beginning now, if any person enters into any of these facilities, buildings owned, operated, controlled, leased, or rented by any of these department stores, you shall immediately depart from them, never return unto them again. And these commands shall apply to the following department stores: B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach: Harrods in London, Bergdorf Goodman in New York, Galeries Lafayette in Paris, Selfridges in London, Saks Fifth Avenue, anywhere they are, Fortnum and Mason, anywhere they are in the world, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. Well, Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from any person who enters into any courthouse, be it a local government courthouse or a national government courthouse, in any of the following countries. You shall depart from the people the very instant they walk inside any such courthouse for any reason. They could be cleaning it, working there, judges, jury, lawyers, it doesn't matter. You shall depart from them and never return unto them again. And these commands are in effect beginning now for 1 year continuously, and they shall apply to the nations of Canada, Mexico, United States, Israel, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Egypt, United Kingdom, France, Spain, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China, Russia, Ukraine, and this is done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree to that. All right, I think we laid it on enough, so I'll put a prayer out for myself and my wife, and if you would, you could agree with it. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for your peace, safety, protection, joy to be on me and my wife. I pray for our finances to improve. I pray for your healing and recuperative power to flow through us and we heal up. I pray to make better videos. I pray our animals and pets be happy, healthy, and whole. I pray you lift all our problems and troubles with landlords, neighbors, government, corporations, people, individuals. Pray you just get rid of all these problems for us so we can concentrate on the gospel, or I can. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and please agree with me. And I I hope you got something out of this. We did a wide spread of spiritual warfare today, that we hit a lot of things we hadn't hit before. And believe me, we're driving them crazy. Every time one of Satan's people, especially the high-ranking ones, gets demon-tossed like this and doesn't know what happened, it's going to reach out to the unclean spirits, and then they got to go and contact them and shore them up and try to tell him or her everything's going to be okay. And, you know, so he makes a career of doing this. The more of this we do, and please agree with this, even if it's a video, you can still agree with it. You don't have to have it just as a live stream. And then it happens all day long, all night long, because you're going to watch this and do it at different times, and it just drives him crazy. All these unclean spirits now got to go shore this up with thousands and thousands of people every day. And they need more reassurances and more reassurances. And then, you know, we'll start doing tricks like every unclean spirit we kicked out of somebody in the last month. Whoever that unclean spirit is in now, they got to come out of that person. You know, we got our games that we're going to play too. So that's going to make, well, let's do it now. Let's do it now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command, and you can agree with me, all the unclean spirits that we kicked out of people with our binding and our loosing and our commanding them out in the last 2 weeks that people were agreeing with me on, these unclean spirits shall now depart from any person they're in immediately and never return unto that person again either. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. See, so this is going to create a reluctance for the unclean spirits to want to go back in that person. Obviously, you see that, right? So that makes it more difficult for them to shore these people up. Remember, they're worried that some of these people might turn to Jehovah and turn against them, start giving testimonies, explaining how they work. We don't need to know how they work. We know how Jehovah works and how we work through Jehovah and Yeshua, and that's all we need. We got that, and we do know a lot about how they work. So we don't need that, but it'd be nice to see people defect away from Satan, and it would, of course, make Satan even more depressed and miserable than he already is, and the unclean spirits. So it's a good thing to make this trouble for them. It's less trouble they make for us, and then they lose control more and more good stuff happens, and things get worse and worse for them. Okay? So, since we're coming up on Shabbat soon, I send my Shabbat Shalom, and we also want to pray for the peace of Yerushalayim, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm out. Thanks, guys.